Pick up, please. Just this once. Please, Jungkook. The voice on the other end was barely a whisper, fragile, almost desperate. Taehyung's fingers tightened around the edge of the restaurant table as he listened to the dial tone, cold, unyielding, final. A half-empty wine glass trembled under his fingertips, catching the dim glow of the chandelier above. His face, partially shadowed by the soft golden light, betrayed the disappointment he refused to voice. Across the city, Jungkook exhaled sharply, staring at the phone vibrating in his hand. Taehyung flashed across the screen, over and over, relentless. His thumb hovered over the screen before he pressed decline. Sorry, Tae. I'm busy. That was the last message he ever sent. The shrill scream of an alarm clock cut through the silence of Jungkook's apartment. Sunlight crept in through the sheer curtains, painting soft patterns on the floor. With a groggy sigh, he reached for his phone. A flood of notifications filled the screen, but one headline made his breath catch. Breaking, Kim Taehyung found dead in tragic accident last night. Jungkook's pulse pounded in his ears. His vision blurred as he reread the words, refusing to believe them. The news article was accompanied by a photograph, dark asphalt, shattered glass, a sleek black car crushed against the guardrail, streaks of blood illuminated by flashing red and blue lights. His phone slipped from his grasp, hitting the floor with a dull thud. The room suddenly felt suffocating. The memory of Taehyung's calls played on loop in his mind, each unanswered ring now a ghostly echo of regret. Last night. That could have been their last moment together. Jungkook collapsed onto the floor, his body trembling. His breath came in ragged, uneven gasps as the weight of his mistake crushed him. His hands clutched his hair, his lips parting in a silent sob. I should have been there. Outside, the world continued to spin. But for Jungkook, time had stopped at one singular moment. The call he never answered. A sharp knock on the door jolted Jungkook out of his daze. He hadn't moved from the floor. His phone lay beside him, the screen still glowing with the news that had shattered his reality. His fingers twitched, hesitant, as if touching the device would make it all real. The knock came again, louder this time. Jungkook, open up. It was Namjoon's voice, firm, but laced with concern. Jungkook forced himself to stand. His legs felt like lead, his throat dry. When he finally opened the door, Namjoon and Jimin stood there, their faces pale, eyes red-rimmed. Jimin didn't say a word. He just stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Jungkook. The moment their bodies collided, Jungkook broke. A sob ripped from his chest, raw and uncontrollable. He called me last night, Jungkook choked out. He called, and I didn't pick up. Jimin pulled back, his expression stricken. You didn't know. I should have. Jungkook's voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. If I had answered, maybe. He couldn't finish the sentence. The maybe was too painful to voice. Namjoon cleared his throat, his hands clenched into fists. The police are investigating. But something's off. Jungkook's head snapped up. What do you mean? Namjoon hesitated. They're saying it was an accident. But Taehyung's car, it didn't just crash. It looked like someone ran him off the road. Jungkook's heart pounded. Someone. Jimin nodded, his voice shaking. The security footage is missing. And Taehyung sent me a message before it happened. He pulled out his phone, unlocking it with trembling fingers. Jungkook leaned in. The message was short. I think someone's following me. Jungkook's blood ran cold. The pain in his chest morphed into something else, something dark, something burning. Guilt. Anguish. And now, an insatiable need for the truth. Jungkook couldn't breathe. His fingers clenched into fists, nails digging into his palms as he stared at Taehyung's last message on Jimin's phone. I think someone's following me. Those words felt like ice seeping into his veins. Why didn't you tell me? Jungkook's voice was barely above a whisper, but the sharp edge in it made Jimin flinch. I didn't see it until this morning, Jimin admitted, his voice tight with guilt. I fell asleep early. By the time I woke up, he swallowed hard, unable to finish. Jungkook took a shaky step back. His mind was a storm of memories of Taehyung's missed calls, his own selfish decision to ignore them, and now this. Someone had been following him. Someone had been watching. And Jungkook had done nothing. Namjoon exhaled sharply. We need to see the accident site. Jungkook lifted his gaze. The police said it was an accident. His voice was bitter. If they're covering something up, then we'll find out the truth ourselves, Namjoon finished. The crash site was eerily silent. The road was still damp from last night's rain, the air thick with the scent of burnt rubber and something metallic, blood. Jungkook swallowed the bile rising in his throat as his eyes landed on the twisted wreckage of Taehyung's car, now pushed to the side of the road. Jimin turned on his phone's flashlight, sweeping it over the ground. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "If he lost control, there should be skid marks. But look, there's barely anything." Jungkook stepped closer, his boots crunching against the gravel. His heartbeat pounded in his ears as he knelt, running his fingers over the cold asphalt. Jimin was right. No signs of braking. No attempt to stop. It was as if he didn't see it coming, Namjoon murmured. Like something hit him before he even had the chance. Jungkook's jaw clenched. His grief twisted into something else, something darker. He looked around, scanning the shadows beyond the road. The city lights flickered in the distance, but the trees lining the expressway swallowed everything in pitch-black silence. And then, a movement. Jungkook's breath hitched. A figure, standing at the edge of the trees, watching. "Did you see that?" His voice was a harsh whisper. Jimin and Namjoon followed his gaze, but by the time they turned, the figure was gone. But Jungkook knew what he saw. Someone was still watching. And they weren't done yet. A cold shiver ran down Jungkook's spine. His fists tightened as he stared at the spot where the figure had stood just moments ago. The trees beyond the road swayed slightly in the wind, their shadows stretching unnaturally under the dim glow of the streetlights. Jimin swallowed hard. "Are you sure you saw someone?" Jungkook's jaw clenched. "I know what I saw." His voice was steady, but inside, his pulse was racing. Namjoon scanned the area, his brow furrowed. If someone was here, they must have left footprints. He pulled out his phone, switching on the flashlight, and stepped cautiously toward the edge of the road. Jungkook followed, his breath shallow. Every step felt heavier, like the air itself was pressing down on him. When they reached the spot, Namjoon crouched, sweeping the light across the damp soil. There, a single footprint. Deep, fresh, leading into the forest. Jungkook's stomach twisted. Someone had been standing there, watching them. "What do we do?" Jimin asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook didn't hesitate. "We follow it." The forest swallowed them whole. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. No cars, no city lights, just darkness stretching endlessly in every direction. The air smelled of wet earth and something faintly metallic, like rust or blood. Namjoon kept his flashlight low, sweeping the beam across the ground. The footprints continued, uneven and hurried, as if whoever they were chasing had been running. Then, they stopped. The three of them froze. The final footprint was pressed deep into the mud, but after that, nothing. No more prints. No sign of struggle. Just empty, undisturbed forest floor. Jimin exhaled shakily. Where the hell did they go? Jungkook's skin prickled. His instincts screamed that something was wrong. He turned in a slow circle, scanning the darkness. "No one just disappears," he murmured. And then, a sound. A whisper. Low. Raspy. Right behind him. Jungkook spun around, his pulse hammering. But there was nothing. Just trees and shadows stretching into the blackness. Then his phone buzzed violently in his pocket, making him flinch. A message. From an unknown number. "Stop looking." His blood ran cold. He lifted his gaze, his fingers tightening around the phone. The shadows around them suddenly felt deeper, more suffocating. Whoever had been watching them. They knew, and they were warning him to walk away. But Jungkook had already made up his mind. He wasn't stopping. Not until he found out the truth. Jungkook's grip on his phone tightened as he stared at the message. "Stop looking." The words felt like a noose tightening around his throat. He could hear his own heartbeat, a deafening thud in his ears. Jimin leaned in. "Who is it from?" Jungkook's fingers trembled as he tapped on the number. No contact name, no profile picture, just a blank void. Namjoon took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "Reply to it." Jungkook hesitated, then typed, "Who are you?" No response. The forest around them was silent. Too silent. Even the wind had died down, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Then, BZT. Jungkook nearly dropped his phone as another message came through. You should have answered his call. His stomach twisted. His fingers went numb. Jimin inhaled sharply. What the hell? Before anyone could react, a rustling sound came from the darkness. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from behind them. Jungkook spun around, his flashlight cutting through the trees. Nothing. But the sound was there. Getting closer. Namjoon grabbed his arm. We need to go. Now. But Jungkook couldn't move. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. The messages. The warning. The regret of not answering Taehyung's last call. And then, BZT. A third message. Run. Jungkook's breath hitched. The rustling grew louder. Twigs snapped. Something was coming. Go. Namjoon shouted, grabbing Jungkook by the wrist and pulling him back toward the road. Jimin was already ahead, his breath ragged as he ran. Jungkook forced his legs to move, his lungs burning as they tore through the darkness. The trees blurred past him. The footsteps behind them quickened. Something was chasing them. Something that didn't want them to find the truth. As they burst out onto the highway, Jungkook dared to glance back. For a split second, he saw it. A figure standing at the tree line. Tall, motionless, watching. Then, just like that, it vanished into the night. Jungkook's chest heaved. His hands shook. He looked down at his phone. The messages were gone. All of them. Like they had never existed. Jungkook's hands trembled as he stared at his phone. The messages gone. Vanished. As if they had never been sent. His pulse hammered in his ears. He turned to Namjoon and Jimin, their faces pale under the flickering streetlights. You saw them, right? His voice was hoarse, desperate. The messages. The number. Jimin nodded, but his expression was tight with unease. Yeah, but now they're just, he gestured at the empty screen. Gone. Namjoon ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his clenched jaw. Someone doesn't want us digging into this. Jungkook swallowed the lump in his throat. Or they're trying to scare us. A gust of wind howled through the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain and something else, something metallic. Jungkook stiffened. This scent was familiar. The same one from the accident site. Blood. His stomach twisted. Let's get out of here, Namjoon muttered. We need to regroup. Jungkook wasn't sure what regrouping even meant at this point. But as the shadows of the trees seemed to stretch toward them, as if whispering threats they couldn't hear, he didn't argue. The air inside felt suffocating, heavy with unspoken words. The three of them sat in silence, the dim glow of Jungkook's desk lamp casting long shadows across the walls. Jimin was the first to speak. What if it's not just an accident? His voice was quiet, but there was an edge of fear beneath it. Jungkook inhaled sharply. It wasn't. He looked up, eyes burning with something raw. Someone followed him that night. Someone wanted him dead. Namjoon exhaled, rubbing his temples. And now, they know we're looking. Jungkook's phone buzzed again, making them all flinch. His heart lurched as he grabbed it. Unknown number. Again. But this time, it wasn't a text. It was a video. With shaking fingers, Jungkook tapped on the file. The screen flickered before a grainy recording filled the screen. The footage was dark, distorted. A shaky camera. Heavy breathing. And then, a car. Taehyung's car. The camera was positioned across the street, as if someone had been watching him. The headlights of another vehicle flared in the distance, growing closer, closer, until suddenly, the camera jerked violently. A loud crash. The sound of tires screeching. And then, a voice. Low. Menacing. Whispering a single sentence. You should have stayed quiet. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Jungkook's breath came in short, uneven gasps. Jimin's face was ashen. What the hell was that? Namjoon stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. That's it. We're taking this to the police. Jungkook shook his head. And say what? That we're getting messages from an unknown number that magically disappear? His voice was thick with frustration. They already ruled it an accident. They won't listen. Namjoon cursed under his breath. Then what do you suggest? Jungkook looked down at his phone again, replaying the words in his mind. He should have stayed quiet. Someone killed Taehyung. And now, they were watching them. His hands curled into fists. I say we stop waiting for answers, Jungkook said, his voice dangerously steady. He looked up, eyes burning. We start looking for them. The city was still asleep when Jungkook, Namjoon, and Jimin stepped out of the apartment. The streets were empty, the neon glow of signboards flickering like dying stars. Everything felt wrong. Jungkook's phone was still in his hand, the video replaying in his mind like a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Taehyung's car. The crash. The voice whispering. He should have stayed quiet. Someone had been there that night. Someone had watched it happen. And now that someone was watching them, Namjoon exhaled sharply. If the cops won't help, we need to find our own leads. Jimin hesitated. And go where? It's not like we have a name, a face, anything. Jungkook interrupted, his voice firm. Taehyung must have told someone he was in trouble. If we can retrace his steps, maybe we can find out who was following him. Silence. Then Namjoon nodded. Then we start at the last place he went. Jungkook's stomach twisted. He already knew the answer. The restaurant. The place where Taehyung had waited for him. Alone. The building loomed ahead, its dark windows reflecting the streetlights like empty eyes. A faint neon glow buzzed from the restaurant's sign, casting eerie shadows across the sidewalk. It was closed, but that didn't stop Jungkook. He stepped forward, gripping the handle, locked. Of course, Jimin muttered. Now what? Jungkook's jaw clenched. He lifted his hand and knocked 3 sharp raps against the glass. No response. He was about to turn away when a click. The door creaked open. Jungkook froze. Namjoon exchanged a glance with Jimin before stepping forward. That's not normal. Jungkook's pulse pounded. Someone's inside. And they were letting them in. The air was thick with the scent of wine and something musty, like the place hadn't been cleaned since that night. Tables were still set, glasses left half full. It was as if time had stopped the moment Taehyung left. Jimin shuddered. This feels wrong. Jungkook didn't respond. His gaze swept across the room, searching. There had to be something. A clue. A sign. Anything. Then he saw it. On the table near the window, where Taehyung must have sat. A single envelope. White. Unmarked. Jungkook's stomach twisted. He stepped forward and reached for it. The second his fingers brushed the paper. BZ's T. His phone vibrated. Another message. Unknown number. I warned you. Jungkook barely had time to react before. Crash. The restaurant lights flickered. Glass shattered behind them. Footsteps, fast, heavy, rushed toward them. Run. Namjoon shouted. Jungkook barely managed to snatch the envelope before they bolted toward the exit. The shadows twisted around them, the sound of footsteps closing in. Some people were chasing them. Jungkook's lungs burned as they reached the door. He shoved it open, the 3 of them stumbling out onto the street. Behind them, the restaurant went dark. The figures inside? Gone. Like ghosts. Jungkook's hand shook as he unfolded the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper. 5 words, written in rushed, uneven handwriting. You left him to die. Jungkook felt his breath catch. His heart pounded. This wasn't just a warning. It was a message. From someone who knew exactly what had happened to Taehyung. Jungkook's fingers trembled as he clutched the paper. The words burned into his mind like a fresh wound. You left him to die. His breath hitched. The city noise faded, the world narrowing to just those 5 words. Namjoon grabbed his shoulder. Jungkook. Jungkook didn't respond. He felt like he was drowning. It was the truth, wasn't it? He had left Taehyung alone that night. He had ignored his calls. If he had answered, if he had just been there, would Taehyung still be alive? Jimin snatched the paper from his hands. His face twisted in confusion. Who wrote this? His voice was laced with fear, frustration. Is this a warning? A threat? Namjoon's eyes darkened. Or a confession? The weight of his words sank in. Jungkook inhaled sharply. If this letter came from someone who knew what happened, that meant they were close. Watching. They couldn't go home. Not now. Namjoon drove them to an old studio he used for songwriting, bare walls, a single couch, and a heavy door that locked from the inside. Jungkook sat on the floor, staring at the letter. His mind raced. Who sent this? Why now? Jimin paced. The people at the restaurant. They were waiting for us. Namjoon rubbed his temples. And they wanted us to find this. Jungkook's hands tightened around the paper. Then we're missing something. His eyes flicked to Namjoon. Where's the video? Namjoon pulled out his phone and opened the file. The grainy footage played again, Taehyung's car, the crash, the whisper. Jungkook watched closely this time, searching. Then he saw it. Just before the crash, on the far side of the street, there was a glimpse of something. A figure. Jungkook's breath caught. Pause it. Namjoon froze the frame. The figure was blurred, barely visible in the shadows. But Jungkook knew that silhouette. His stomach twisted. Zoom in. Namjoon hesitated, then did as told. The figure sharpened slightly. Jungkook's blood ran cold. Jimin whispered, voice shaking, "No, it can't be." Jungkook's hands went numb as he stared at the screen. Because standing there, just beyond the wreckage, was Taehyung, or someone who looked exactly like him. No one spoke for a long time. The image of Taehyung, or whoever that was, burned in their minds. Then Jungkook's phone rang. Unknown number. Jungkook's heart pounded. He hesitated for only a second before answering. Who are you? Silence. Then, a whisper. Low. Almost mocking. You should have answered. Jungkook's breath hitched. Then the call ended. And the real nightmare began.